Hey, check
Cliven
it out. I
Bundy
wanted to
hasn't
share this
backed
clip
down
with
from
you
his
guys.
offensive comments. If
Talk about it.
anything, he's doubled down. In an interview today, he even compared himself to heroes of the civil rights movement.
They thought about Rosa Parks and taking her seat at the front of the bus. Now, Reverend Martin Luther King did not want her to take her seat in the front of the bus. That wasn't what he's talking about. He did not say go to the front of the bus and that's where your seat was. What Reverend King wanted was that she could sit anywhere in the bus, and that nobody would say anything about it. And you and I could sit by her anywhere in the bus. That's what he wanted, and that's what I want. I want her to be able to sit anywhere in the bus, and I want to be able to sit by her anywhere in that bus.
So, this is his statement, but MSNBC just hates it because, this is a racist. They want him to be a racist. That's what this whole thing is about. Remember, a couple weeks ago, he said something about how he saw these people, they were like in these areas that are blighted areas, people with very little prospect, and they don't have jobs and they're just kind of hanging out all day long. And he was saying he was just making the observation that many of us have made in the past, that often the slaves were actually better off than these people are. He wasn't suggesting that all black people should be slaves again. That's just ridiculous. It's the most ignorant argument ever. And the fact that this guy has a hard time articulating what he's trying to say, to me, I think that the American people give him more leeway because of that. These people in MSNBC get fast speakers and think that these people are going to, over talk so that people in America won't really hear this guy's point. So you got to listen because it's just so sad.
Rosa Parks. Cliven Bundy is no Rosa Parks. When Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on that bus, she was fighting discrimination. It was an act of selflessness.
Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe he should listen to her own words. I believe she said the reason she took the front is because she was tired. That's why she sat down. She wasn't trying to make a statement. But, everybody's trying to make it out that she was. And she's just saying, I wasn't a hero. That wasn't the point. So let's keep going.
Sat so that millions more could stand up to the racism of the 1950s. Cliven Bundy is a lawless rancher. He's not fighting against discrimination, and he's not fighting on behalf of others. He's fighting for himself. He's refusing to pay fees that thousands of other ranchers have no problem with.
Well, maybe that's not exactly the facts of the case. And I would believe that, I know that Politics Nation is absolutely a, commentary type setup. It's not a news organization. They're not bringing news, because if they were, what is news? Well, we play the comments of the man and we let the audience decide what it means. But he's telling us immediately, well, Cliven Bundy said in his statement that his idea of what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wanted was a society where everybody could sit anywhere on the bus they wanted, front, back, side, didn't matter. And that's what he was trying to articulate. And that is the truth. That is what the doctor wanted. But these people on MSNBC, with their bitterness and their spite, and they're trying to divide the races. They're trying to say that people like Cliven Bundy and other people that are country people don't have any interest in racial unity, which is not true. Just not true. Of course, the country people want to stay away from people who want to commit crimes, but that's not what the average black people are. That's why I've always said if the black community were to shun this uh, thug mentality and not praise it and glorify it, if the whole community were just to say that's it, no more, then you would see a huge change. It- They would not allow it. That the community would stop turning their eyes away when a crime was being committed. If everybody in the black community reported every single crime and said, that's it. Because the truth is that, 98, 99, probably more percent of the people are law abiding good citizens. It's just that little chunk. And the reason they're so successful is because the community has turned a blind eye. And that's got to end. But people like this guy here, what's he interested in? And he's getting pretty good money sitting at this table right here. I'll tell you that right now.
In this country, you're allowed to challenge laws you think are unjust. I've done that myself. I protested the bombings in Vieques, and I even served 90 days in jail for this belief. If Mr. Bundy believes in his cause so much, why won't he do that? Joining me now are Joe Madison and Bill Press. Thank you for coming on the show.
He's wondering why Mr. Bundy doesn't want to go to jail. Well, I didn't see anybody up there trying to arrest him. What I saw was they were trying to steal his cattle. And the people came and said, hey, ho, let go of those cows. Number one, they were treating the cows terribly. They separated the moms from their babies. That doesn't work. I mean, obviously you've got these city people that don't understand animals, It's common sense. Where was PETA in all this? Anyhow, so they're not taking care of the animals properly. They're not getting them next to the water, so the animals are dry. There's only a little bit of water in the area, so it's very limited. If you put them in cages, they will die. That's why they're called range animals. God, it's just sad. Sad.
Show tonight.
Hi, Reverend Al. Hi.
Joe, let me start with you. What do you make of this rancher comparing himself to Rosa Parks?
Well, first of all, man, you had me think of something. Rosa Parks was quite honestly defending the Constitution of the United States.
That's right.
It was a Supreme Court decision that dealt with not just
She came out later and said that the only reason she sat there is because she was tired. She had a hard day. She was exhausted. She didn't want to move any farther back. And everybody's trying to make it out to be a big deal. It wasn't, and that's what she said, which to me made her a bigger person, because most people would say, ooh, wow, yeah, cool, make me a hero because I didn't want to go to the back of the bus.
the state of Alabama, but it was about the entire country. So here you have a man who just got through saying to everybody he doesn't believe in the United States, but he would be right there with Rosa Parks, who, by the way, was upholding a federal law that he says he doesn't believe in.
Well, I've heard this before, and I heard the old guy say that he does not believe in the United States. But now I may be wrong, and somebody's more than welcome to correct me if they know better. But I think what he meant by that was that the United States, as it is right now, is not following the Constitution. And I heard another guy saying, well, he's quoting the Constitution, but he says he doesn't recognize the federal government. Well, it's because that is not a contradiction if you understand the point. There are a lot of people who stand on the Constitution but believe that our federal government has stepped outside of that protection. So when he says that, perhaps, and I may be wrong, he means that the federal government as it stands today is not a legitimate federal government. So because of that, they've effectively killed the federal government that existed, and they've replaced it with this false federal government. And now what he's suggesting is that, we should return to the proper federal government, which is that falls under the Constitution, that actually abides by the rules that were set up, rather than, I mean, can you imagine having a club that says, we have all these rules on the club on the wall, and everybody breaks every single one of them, the ones that are in charge. But if you break one of them, they'll kick you out. This is the kind of situation we have here. The government, the people that we elect, make laws that ignore the Constitution. And that's the law of the land. And the only way that we can fix it as the people is we have to bring a lawsuit. But before you can bring a lawsuit, you have to have standing. So it's a whole legal concept, and it's very deep and difficult. It's not easy. All right, getting too sidetracked.
Look, and he also chooses to compare himself to those who are no longer with us. I mean, why did he compare himself to John Lewis? Because John Lewis would stand up and tell him neither is he a Rosa Parks or a John Lewis. And finally, as it relates to this,
he didn't suggest he was a Rosa Parks, for God's sakes. He said he would sit down on the bus beside her. In other words, he doesn't have a racist bone in his body. He doesn't think 1 second that he's better or worse or any different because, as a Christian, most people believe that everybody is, God created. So under that understanding, then how can you say that you're better than one person or another? In fact, the whole idea of Jesus was that, the lowly sinner was above the priest or the high person who the society looked up to. Remember the story of the two men praying in church, and one was on his face in tears saying, "Oh God, I'm a sinner. I'm a terrible person. I'm so bad." And the other guy was over there going, "Thank you, God, for not making me like that guy. I do all my penance. I give to the poor. I tithe. I do all the things I'm supposed to do. I am a good man. Thank you, God, for making me that way." Jesus said, the guy that was on his face, the sinner, he's the one that went home justified in God's eyes, not the other guy that did everything right. You know?
You're absolutely right. You've gone to jail. I've gone to jail with you, and I just got out of jail as it relates to South Sudan. If you are honest about what you want to do, then don't fight them. Sacrifice. Go to jail and stand up and be counted like Rosa
under
Parks
arrest.
did.
He has no.
Bill, he also compared himself. He said this about Martin Luther King.
I just want to say, as a side note, because most of my videos are about Zimmerman, that was something that was going on during his case earlier before the state hired that Corey lady to arrest him. That he wasn't under arrest, and these people on MSNBC kept saying, "Why don't you just go turn yourself in and get arrested?" And it's like, dude, he can't turn himself in to get arrested if he's not under arrest. It's just
King. Listen to this.
like, wow, lawyers.
When you talk about prejudice, we're talking about not being able to exercise what we think and our feelings, but we don't have freedom to say what we want. If I say Negro or black boy or a slave, I'm not, if those people cannot take those kind of words and
So that was the end of that video, but I wanted to talk, I wish I would have had the rest of that because I really wanted to hear the rest of it. But it's basically what he was saying is, if those people that are hearing these words, and that's white and blacks, everybody's like, "Oh my God, he's a racist. He said Negro." Well, that's a communication issue, and it has nothing to do with his personal feelings about race. You know what I'm saying? That's the hardest thing. Sometimes you get these older people, especially, that have a hard time making their communication, and they're basing their communication on words that were acceptable. You know, the word colored was a totally acceptable word in the 60s. In fact, that was the nice word to say. Black was a bad word back then. Now black is beautiful. you know, because we went through the 80s and the 90s and stuff, and so people learned that the word black isn't bad. That's all. And the whole thing about this guy is all he's trying to do is say, look, I'm not racist. I never was. And most people would ask any person in his age group what words they use to describe black people or any group of people. And when you hear the word, you will think, my God, this person's a racist, because they come from another time. It's just different words. They're not. But I really don't think I have to defend this guy as far as racism is concerned, because the people in general, and I mean, as soon as I heard this whole thing, I knew what it was. This is what they do. This is what the progressives, the left wing uh, oligarchy, does to control the minds of the masses. This is how they do it. They have a handful of tricks. This trick's getting old, man. I mean, it's like they keep whipping this baby around. We've got a black president, but you know what? We're a racist nation. Wow, you know. And yeah, he's the most unpopular president in the nation's history. And yeah, he's got a lot of issues, but they reelected him twice. I wasn't part of that reelection, but I didn't reelect George Bush either, because I can see a tyrant coming on. It doesn't take much. When they're taking on new powers upon themselves left and right, just you've got to be wondering, where's it end? What are they gonna let us have a new election? I don't know. All I know is, the Constitution's just a wet piece of paper right now, at least as far as this president's concerned. Regardless of what you think about all the conspiracy surrounding him and his legitimacy, right? Who, regardless of that. Anyhow, I just think it's hilarious that they use uh, racism to attack this man. Look, if the law is the law, why are we going there? Why do they have, I'm sure what they did is they sat there and interviewed this guy over and over and over and just kept going and going and going, asking him questions over until they finally found something that they could use against him, because he was really popular. And then, I mean, even the Republicans, and these Republicans, they're definitely, for the most part, statists. They're just totally into the what's best for the government and for them, and they're not really helping. I'm conservative. I'm not Republican. I'm not stupid. I know that they're not there for me. There is no, but there, I have no representatives there for me, because if I did, what good would they be? They can't be effective there, because they, you have to compromise with all these people to even. Let's put it this way: if you go there and you've got 100 senators and you're one of them, then you've got to get 50 other senators to agree with you on something to get your something done. And even then, it doesn't mean it's going to get to the floor, because remember, you've got Harry Reid, who is the leader, and he gets to choose what comes up. So, the Democrats get to choose what comes up. They get to make the rules. They get to decide what is going to be amended, whether it's even going to have amendments. They have the majority, so they're going to win. It's just procedural, basically. We just kind of do these things. It's emotion, you know, whatever. Anyhow, I just wanted to point this out. I think it's ridiculous that they're tearing this old man down and using racism as their tool when obviously there's not a racist bone in his body. I was going to show the clips of the black guys that are there on his ranch defending him, and one guy saying, "I'll take a bullet for that man. He's not a racist. There ain't no racist in him. He treats me just like he treats his children." And you know what? That's exactly the way it is, and that's the way it should be. And that's the way most of the people I know are. We don't see color, we see character. That's what we see, and that's what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wanted. He said, "Don't judge people based on the color of their skin. Judge them based on the character, the content of their character," right? So if you see people strutting down the street, looking to start trouble, saying, "What you looking at? What kind of character is that?" Yeah, I'm going to judge them poorly. I don't care what color they are. And that's what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said. And that's why Cliven Bundy agrees with the doctor, just like I do.